To the May 12th informal Virginia Beach Planning Commission. We are ready to go. We have a couple of people that are running behind, but will be here today. Carolyn, I think we're up for you. Nothing else on this side. How's that?
Sure. Good morning. The planning director will be joining us shortly, so I'm on the B team, so I'll be sitting in for him, I should say. I would like to introduce Grace Pullen. She is going to be one of our interns this summer. Grace is a rising junior at Virginia Tech.
Hi, it's nice to meet you all.
Congratulations.
She's a political science major, and we're excited to have her with us this summer. We also have Maddie.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, what was the name? What was your name? Grace Pullen. Grace?
Grace Pullen.
Okay, welcome, Grace.
And we also have Maddie Lohman. She's actually joining us virtually this morning. She's still at JMU, but she will be here this summer as well, so you'll get to meet her next month. And she is a senior, and as I said, we're very excited to have both of them with us this summer. I wanted to give you a refresher on the zoning ordinance amendment for short-term rental. On May 18th, staff will be making a presentation to City Council. And then on May 25th, the City Council is scheduled to have a workshop to discuss the recommendations of the Planning Commission. On June 1st, the City Council will have a public hearing where they'll hear from members of the community. And then on June 5th, the City Council will vote on those short-term rental amendments. And we don't have any staff presentations outside of our agenda, so if you want to go ahead, we can get started with that.
Okay. Mr. Tahan said that we were going to maybe discuss our future in July and get a feedback from people. Maybe, should I wait for him to come with that?
There have been discussions about moving the Planning Commission public hearing back to the council chamber, and we certainly will be letting you know well in advance of that.
Okay.
Perhaps in July, perhaps.
Okay, perhaps, hopefully.
But in June, we will be here in this room.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on board with that, because I think everybody would really like to get back to where we were.
Sure. And we await direction
Yeah,
of the city
yes.
manager on that.
Yes, okay, sounds good.
So thank you.
All right, so we're ready to go with staff reports.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Commission. First item we'll be hearing today is a ordinance amendment, and this would be an amendment to our sign ordinance. What the amendment aims to do is make the sign regulations in our ordinance content neutral, and this was sparked by making our ordinance consistent with recent court decisions. If you remember, just to give you a little history, years ago there was a case, Town of Gilbert versus Reed, which went to the Supreme Court, which really said signs can't be regulated based on the content. Well, there's that along with some other court decisions more recent. We are just letting our ordinance catch up. So what this ordinance does is first addresses billboards. The current ordinance prohibits billboards based on their content. And what I mean by that is it defines billboards as an off-site advertising sign, but to understand the fact that it's off-site, you have to read the sign, therefore it's content-based. So what this new ordinance does is take the billboards. We don't care what it says, but the billboards will be restricted to whatever the size limitation is for a freestanding sign on the property it's located on in that zoning district. Which in the supplemental package, you received a table, and that is what that lays out is the maximum size for freestanding signs per each district. I don't need to go through that with you, but just to give you an idea of the sign limitations that billboards would have. So that's the first thing this ordinance does. The second is that it removes the zoning administrator's power to lessen nonconformity in signs. Previously, my position had the power where if a nonconforming situation existed, if the applicant was lessening the nonconformity, that could be an administrative process. What this ordinance would do would restrict that to requiring city council approval. Lastly, this ordinance deals with electronic signs. The ordinance would only permit electronic signs in 2 instances. The first would be major entertainment venues. If you remember, this is something like the aquarium that requires a conditional use permit, so city council would dictate the sign size and number of electronic signs. The second would be fuel signs, and these would only be permitted on sites where fuel is dispensed, and they would be limited to 1 sign. So that is the summary of the ordinance. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? I have one. Questions, anybody?
Yes, sir.
Going back to the nonconformity, why all of a sudden, has there been an issue in the past? Because it seems like it was what you've been doing in the past was working.
No, there haven't been any issues that sparked this, but it was just felt that bringing it to council, bringing it to the public forum was a more correct method to address this.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
But yeah, there aren't too many instances where this has taken place. You know, Pembroke Mall was one where it was used, but it was just something where if city council is going to address, you know, major entertainment venues and that, you know, it just felt more appropriate for us to put that there.
Okay. Everybody good for consent? Can you come up and read this in? The
Absolutely.
report? Perfect. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right, number 2.
Good morning. This next application is an application for a conditional use permit for motor vehicle sales and rentals on a 37,000 square foot parcel, Zone B2, on Haygood Road. On September 13, 1982, a CUP was granted on the site for fuel sales and a convenience store, but the site has remained vacant for almost 3 years. The site is currently developed with an almost 5,000 square foot 1-story building, a mechanical building in the rear of the site, and a canopy structure from the previous auto service station. All buildings will remain on site except the fuel canopy structure, which will be demolished prior to the operation of the auto sales establishment. The applicant is proposing to display up to 48 vehicles on the site. As depicted on the concept plan, 3 sides of the building will be designated for vehicle display with enough parking for both customers and employees. Per section 5A.4 of the site plan ordinance, 12% of interior display area must be on the site, which in this case totals approximately 880 square feet. This requirement has been exceeded by approximately 40 square feet on the site. The required street frontage and building foundation landscaping depicted on the plan also meets the requirements set forth in the city's zoning ordinance. In staff's opinion, this request is in keeping with policies and goals set forth in the comprehensive plan. The proposed landscaping, the exterior changes to the building to include new paint, will contribute to the enhancement of the aesthetics of the vacant site. There are no known opposition to this request, and staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions in the report. Are there any questions?
Mr. Ebden?
Well, I just repeat, I called Marshall yesterday and had a discussion about this. I'm uncomfortable with this application for a couple of different reasons. I do not think it's ready for prime time, in my view. It doesn't have a landscape plan. I didn't know when we began the policy of kind of mailing it in. Normally, there is a landscape plan beyond just kind of this rudimentary thing. And the reason I feel, you know, somewhat strongly about trying to get more information on this is there is a car lot immediately adjacent to it. There's one on the other side of Aragona Boulevard. There's an auto repair facility across Haygood Road. There's a 7-Eleven on the other side of catty corner, sort of, to this thing. There's a lot of that kind of use there. Is that bad that this is another one? This used to be a fuel site. It was a service station, filling station with a convenience store use. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the use, very frankly. It seems to be perhaps a bit too much concentration of that. if I could get comfortable with the use, I would want to see, I think, greater improvement on the site than what's depicted here. And frankly, a greater presentation of it. I would like to know more about the landscaping. The idea that you can just, I know this guy's, whoever's going to lease or buy it is looking at it and thinking, sweet, I don't have to do much. And you go in there and paint the building and park 50 cars on the spot. Well, I don't know that that's really where we want to go. We got one Virginia Beach Boulevard already. I don't know that Haygood Road needs to be another Virginia Beach Boulevard. And as I say, if as a city we decide that that's okay, I really think it needs to be a higher bar than what I'm seeing here. I don't like the site plan, just doesn't, a high schooler can do this. And I don't have enough on I kind of want to see more improvements to the site, and I want to see a better depiction of what is going to be on that site for me to become comfortable with the use, because it's a fairly high, this is not that big a roadway. And I don't know that we want to turn it into Dealership USA. Certainly not without, I think, a better, I'm just not comfortable with it where it is. So I would like, frankly, for the applicant, if he wants to try and demonstrate that some. If not, so I would recommend, I think later on, we can have this discussion now. I'm never a big fan of deferrals, because I think typically people want to evade their responsibility to vote on something hard. But in this case, I want to kind of find out more about this. I just don't think we got enough here. I want to see more landscaping. I want to see a better looking plan. I want to understand it better, and I want to think about it and have some discussions with other folks about whether or not that's just too much of this kind of use in this place. And so I think probably it is most appropriate for a deferral to do that. Now, if the commission decides that, guys don't want to do that, the majority here says they want to move forward, I would not be prepared to support it.
Is the applicant
The
prepared to be here?
applicant is going to be here, and he is going to have his engineer to come as well. I did talk to Mr. Redmond. I just want to be clear that we've been accepting these concept plans. I know you want something more, but we've been accepting these complex plans for these type of uses. So what they provided on site meets the requirements, and we'll be able to enforce it because it's not like it's a new building on the site. They're just redeveloping what's already there. But I definitely understand your concerns, and I let the applicant know, so he'll be here today to address your concerns if you guys want to defer it or if you want to move forward and vote.
I would take issue with one thing. They're not redeveloping it. They're parking a bunch of cars on it. Painting the building and parking a bunch of cars on it. Now, that's my concern. It needs to be better developed than I think what we're seeing. In any event, we can get into that later if they want to have that discussion.
And
My
these are-
inclination at this point, unless someone convinces me otherwise, is I haven't seen enough to be able to support it, and I want to give the applicant the chance to give me more.
And these are popping up all over the city. Mr. Costin, hold on, Mr. Costin.
Is this business in any way attached to the one next to it? Because they're awfully
not.
jammed in there.
It's not. This is
not.
a new site for new.
New person, new
person,
business.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like I said, we got something here that says this is what the sign's going to look like. Well, that's not a sign exhibit. That's a logo. A sign exhibit's a sign exhibit. I don't know what the sign's going to look like. I know what the logo is, but that's. I kind of want to get a little bit more specific about this stuff. That's kind of where I'm going with this. So, in any event, thank you, Marshall.
Jack?
Mr. Inman has a question.
To Jack? I'm sorry.
Jack.
Hold on a second.
Sorry, Mr. Wall.
So there is a couple things with this, so I appreciate Dave's comments. But so this would be the third right there, because there's one on the other side of Aragona.
That's
There's
correct.
both on either sides of Aragona, and then there's this one. So that would be three, right there. And who dictates what's too much, what's and this is a small community business. B2, on Haygood, serves the community right there on Haygood. But there are a couple things, not necessarily with this, but we debated the one on the other side of Aragona for a while, actually, from what I can remember. About the number of cars, the lights. I remember, they wanted taller poles, and we wanted shorter poles. And I think I went by there. They're fairly short, so we must have impressed that was the appropriate lighting for that application. I think it's Trex RS is the it's a repurposed 7-Eleven over there. But it was I think some of the discussion was it was too close to the neighborhood.
Specialty.
Oh, what'd you say?
Specialize in Jeeps.
Oh, do they? Okay. All right. Yeah, that's so be it. But the one next to this one, I'm looking on there at the map on page 1 of the application, actually page 2, and I don't see a number on it. Meaning, does it have a conditional use permit to operate?
I did not see a conditional use permit. There might have been one prior to, like maybe in the 60s.
Prior to, I don't know if somebody from city staff can
We'll have
can
to-
look into that one, because I mean they've got, just from the aerial, they had 50 vehicles on a site about half the size of this one.
So this site, along with many sites along this stretch of the roadway, have had auto-related uses since the 60s. So perhaps they didn't need a use permit, and that use has been
Has
continuing. So
continued.
that's often what happens when we are surprised that we don't see a use permit, is that one was not required when they initially established the business. And the one that you're discussing further down the road, so that also had, that was auto repair, which we look at a little bit somewhat differently. And it was immediately adjacent to residential where this one isn't. So I think they did have a few cars for sale on that one, but it was a bit of a different application, but still auto-related.
Okay, now I'm talking about the one that's directly adjacent to this lot. It's right at the corner of Aragona,
She's saying.
and it,
Right, but the Trucks R Us one.
oh
is
yeah,
the
that
one-
was
That was auto service predominantly, and then they were gonna sell occasionally cars that folks didn't pay their bill or, so it was similar, but there were some distinctions. I just wanted you
Okay.
to be aware of.
okay. All right, thank you.
Whitney, do you have a question?
I guess to Mr. Redmond's point, they're not increasing the green space at all, or decreasing the,
Well, they're increasing it some because there is pretty much, that place is pretty much impervious, it's all asphalt.
Right.
All of those new trees and
In
the
the very
aisles,
front?
that's the new interior landscaping that they're proposing on the site.
okay, just the
And
two
it-
islands and then
12%
along the
is
road
required.
there?
Yes, the street frontage, they're improving, and they're also providing the 12%. They're adding the dumpster screening that's required. But they're adding some
Okay, not a whole lot.
proposed to what's
Okay.
there now.
Yeah, I mean, I agreed with Mr. Redmond. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, it seems like a neighborhood area, and there's a lot of car lots,
Yes, sir.
automotive
Mr. Redmond.
uses.
I do want to make a couple points. Number one, the Trucks R Us building, that's a much smaller site. This is an acre. And it's Haygood Road. Again, it's not Virginia Beach Boulevard. This is a much larger site. And I think there's no question that it's going to be impactful. And I do understand on one side you have a mini storage unit. On the other side, you have this very packed-in site that apparently doesn't have a conditional use permit. I didn't notice that. Good catch, Jack. It just seems, I mean, I'm just in my head, I'm thinking you take an acre and you put just park a whole bunch of cars on there with little more than painting the building, and I don't think it's an improvement by any stretch of the imagination. At least on these other corners, each one of these redevelopment projects has been an improvement, right? I mean, the Trucks R Us is an improvement to the broken-down old vacant 7-Eleven building. It's vastly better. I've got to be convinced that it's going to be better, or else, in my view, if you just park a whole bunch of cars on there, it's going to be worse. And I don't think you do that. Now, the fact that there's nobody opposing it strikes me as probably, I don't realize what's going on. I tend to be, pretty economic development oriented, and this rubs me the wrong way from what I see initially. So, in any event, I think it might be too much. I just don't know. I could be
All
convinced.
right, we're going to hear it, so we'll have a big discussion this afternoon on it. Okay? Jack?
One thing I saw in the news recently was the used car, the pre-owned vehicle sales have increased. It's kind of exploded, actually, is what I've heard, based on just some reports. So it could be, it seemed like, we only had generally 1 or 2 a year, and now we've had 3 in the past 2 months applications. And I don't know if that's a driver, or if you've seen anything about that,
I haven't
Ms.
seen
Coleman.
anything.
Okay, we'll have a discussion this afternoon.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to hear number 2. All right.
All right, this next item, item 3, this is an application for a conditional rezoning from B1 neighborhood business to conditional B2 community business in order to operate a commercial retail store on the vacant building, in the vacant building on the site. The applicant is requesting a 30-day deferral for the opportunity to meet with the adjacent neighborhood.
Okay.
Dave,
Yes, Mr. Redmond.
I just gave the city attorney a piece of paper. I'm going to recuse myself on this, so later on when we vote on the deferrals, I will say that I'm specifically not voting on the deferral of this application.
Okay.
And the reason is because a partner of one of the brokers involved in this is someone I sometimes partner with in my office.
No problem. All right, on to number 4.
All right, number 4. This application is a request for a conditional use permit for a mini warehouse on Centerville Turnpike. The undeveloped B4 mixed-use district zone parcel with a portion of the property containing a parking lot will be developed with a 3-story, 25,000 square foot climate-controlled self-storage building. The facade will consist of a neutral color palette with a mix of manufactured stone veneer, brick veneer, smooth finish insulated metal panel veneer, and a standing seam metal roof. The applicant is, however, seeking a deviation to the required 35-foot front yard setback. A 15-foot front yard setback is proposed, which will align with the adjacent buildings along Centerville Turnpike. Staff supports the reduced setback as it provides an urban style of development, aligns with the adjacent building, contributes to the contribution of pedestrian scale along Centerville Turnpike, and will not interfere with the Centerville Turnpike Phase 3 roadway project or Dominion Energy's utilities. The 497 parking spaces on site meets the shared parking requirement between the existing apartment, retail, and the proposed self-storage. The use will result in a decrease in traffic generation as compared to a typical mixed-use development that would contain both commercial, office, and residential uses. In staff's opinion, this request is in keeping with the policies and goals set forth in the comprehensive plan. The proposed self-storage facility is surrounded by both commercial and residential uses and provides a service to the businesses and residents in the area. There is no known opposition to this request, and staff is recommending approval subject to the conditions in the report. I'll stand by for any questions.
Questions?
So I spoke with the attorney, Mr. Beeman, about this property. Drove down the area. The goal is to mimic the apartment buildings in look and feel, so I think it will blend nicely in the area. And as Marshall said, serve the residents and the businesses that are right there. And I have not heard anything in opposition as well, so I think I would add this to the consent agenda.
Sounds good. Mr. Graham?
Mine's more really of a clarification. It's a 25,000 square foot footprint, but the building's 75,000 square feet. Because it's 3 stories. Is
Yes,
that correct?
that's
Okay,
correct.
I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify.
All right. Jack?
It appears the building's kind of turned.
It is.
It's not aligned with the mixed-use building, which sets a great precedent. I mean, the mixed-use building, in general, sets a great precedent. Is there a reason why it's kind of turned like that, an angle?
I'm not sure why it's turned that way, but it kind of aligns. It's just a little turn, but you can ask the applicant, or I can ask the applicant during the break.
It's
why
probably
they
aligned with the
decided to-
roadway. I was just curious. It just seemed kind of awkward.
Right.
We're good for
I'm not sure of
consent?
the reason why they turned it. if that
Yeah, why
interested. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's slanted.
We're good for consent? All right.
I'm fine with consent.
Okay. Robin's going to read this one for us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. On to number 5.
All right. Good morning.
Morning.
All right. Item number 5 is a change in nonconformity request to redevelop a 12,000 square feet parcel with 8 townhome units. The subject property is Zone A12 Apartment District and is located in the Beach District. There are 5 residential structures that were constructed in 1948. This dwellings varies both in size and shape and contain a total of 9 nonconforming units. The property consists of 3 lots that were platted in 1924 prior to the adoption of our zoning ordinance. Therefore, a total of 3 duplexes, or 6 total units, will be permitted as a matter of right. For a newly created lot zone A12, the site of this size could yield 3 residential units. The property is located within the 70 to 75 noise zone, where residential is not compatible. However, the reduction in the number of units is consistent with the acres regulation of the zoning ordinance. While the proposed redevelopment will reduce the number of dwelling units from 9 to 8, the number remains in excess of what is permitted by right, which is 6. It is important to note that when a nonconforming structure is demolished, it loses its nonconforming status, and a new development is required to comply with the current regulations. The submitted elevation depicts a 3-story townhouse with a contemporary design with asphalt shingles, vinyl siding, vinyl window, vinyl railing, and vinyl shutters. The proposed parking meets the parking requirement, and a 5 feet wide sidewalk is proposed along Norfolk Avenue. There are certain elements of the proposal that have merit, such as decreasing the number of units by 1, reducing the degree of nonconformity for building setbacks, and improving the aesthetics of the site. However, in staff view, the proposed density is too dense for this parcel. The proposed density at 29 units per acre is incompatible with the surrounding area, which consists of single-family residence and apartments to the south, that has a density of 17.65 units per acre. The proposed redevelopment further increase the lot coverage by approximately 3,100 square feet, or 65%. It is unclear how the applicant will address for stormwater management for this redevelopment, as the information was not submitted with the application. Traffic and engineering reviewed the proposal and commented that the proposed curb line radii and the property line radius along Norfolk Avenue and 9th Street are proposed to be substandard. As the proposal is not consistent with our zoning ordinance for nonconforming structures, and the proposed density is incompatible with the surrounding area, staff is recommending denial of this request. Staff received 6 letters in support for this item, and one petition with 5 signatures from the same individual that provided the letter of support. Are there any questions?
Questions?
I would like to hear this one.
Oh, yes. But we have to
we-
because it's
we
being
have to.
denied.
Yeah.
We have to hear it.
Yeah, we visited this one last week. I was disgusted by the condition of the property, so I have no doubt that it needs to be redeveloped. There's currently a tenant that just signed a 1-year lease, so I'm concerned about her future, and so
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Graham?
And I recognize why it's being recommended for denial, but these buildings, you know, when I saw this come through and then, you know, and looked into it and drove by, I agree. They're not in great shape, but they're 70 years old, so we'll cut them a break. I mean, those buildings, it's time for them to be scraped. They're going to reduce the number of units by 1 unit. They're currently not consistent with the surrounding area, the number of units. So anyway, you know, I'm glad I mean, obviously we have to hear it, but gosh, it just seems like when you look at those elevations, that this is a project that, I mean, I don't know. That looks really nice.
Okay. Well, we're going to hear it, so
Okay.
we'll be able to talk about it. Everybody good? All right, we're going to hear this one, number 5. All right, on number 6.
Item number 6 is a conditional rezoning request from R75 Residential District to conditional A18. The applicant is requesting a 30-day deferral of this request in order to address applicable components of the shoreline design corridor. Shoreline design guidelines, sorry.
All right, through.
David?
Yes, Mr. Redmond.
So I don't know if this is possible. I don't know why it wouldn't be possible. On some of these deferrals, when they come to us in our packet, just like there, it says deferral requested. I mean, there's probably a staff report on some of these things that require it. I kind of like to get a little look at them. No? She's shaking your head no? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Redmond, sorry.
Gotta hold something back?
No, typically what happens is the reason why they're getting deferred is we don't have all the information to provide any analysis to you, which is why they're getting deferred. So we don't want to paint an incomplete picture, and it's not, we don't believe that'd be fair for the applicant, so.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I like Carolyn. Okay. Number 7.
Item 7 is a conditional use permit request for a group home in the Rose Hall District. The applicant, Setting House, is a nonprofit organization that currently operates our 3 rented properties in the Kings Grant neighborhood of Virginia Beach. For 36 years, Setting House has provided mentoring, counseling, education programs, and a safe and secure home for children between the ages of 9 to 18 years old that are homeless, runaway, trafficked, disconnected, and at risk. The applicant proposes to relocate to this site and construct a centralized campus location for the boy and girl shelters and administrative office. The site is currently developed with a church. The existing church will be renovated to provide temporary shelter for the boys while the new shelters and administration building are being constructed. Once construction is complete, the existing church building will be demolished. The group home will provide care for up to 20 children operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There will be 10 to 12 staff rotating during normal business hours and 2 to 4 staff for overnight shift. The proposed group home buildings and associated parking lot will be located in the A12 apartment district, and the proposed BMP will be located on a portion of the property that is Zone B2 Community Business District. The properties fall within the noise zone of 65 to 70 in sub-area 3 of the acres, and as a matter of right, the property can be developed with 34 multifamily units. The submitted elevation plan depicts two-story residential buildings with brick water table, vinyl siding and window, and asphalt single roof. The proposed single-story administrative building will be constructed with similar appearance to the residential buildings. A Category 4 landscape buffer and a 6-feet-tall privacy fence is proposed along the eastern property line abutting the residentially zoned properties. A 4-feet-tall fence is proposed along the property street frontage. The scale and design of the proposed building are compatible with the surrounding residential and commercial uses. And based on this consideration and further described in the report, staff is recommending approval of this request. There are no opposition to this request.
Questions? Jack? Yes, you?
Yeah, no, it looks good. You know, it's low density, and looks appropriate for the area. Looks like St. Luke's and Prince Anne Plaza United Methodist Churches, their congregations merged into Light of Hope UMC. So the building's been for sale, and you know, I'm good with consent.
Mr. Redmond? Can you turn, there you go.
Sorry, can you define at-risk youth? 20 at-risk youth. What's at risk?
But,
Stumped.
Resident social worker. Typically kids who are either homeless or they're fleeing an unsafe home environment.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you, Rob.
Rob,
I got
consent?
one quick
Yes,
question.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why they have more beds than they're allowed children?
So each building will have a total of 6 bedrooms, and each bedroom have 2 beds. The The room, the extra room is for the staff that will be staying overnight.
Okay, so they get a bed,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so this is gonna go on consent, and that is number 7, all right? Who would like to read this one? Who'd like to read this one for Jack? Anybody?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Dee. All right. Number 8.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this next application is item number 8.
Hank, have you actually introduced yourself? I don't think this is the first time you've come up here.
This is my first time
Yeah.
presenting to the
Go ahead and
Commission.
introduce
So
yourself.
my name is Hank Morrison. I'm in the zoning division, helping out with some.
Just so we know you, here you are.
Yes, nice to meet you guys. So this next application is item number 8 from South Lynnhaven LLC. The application is to modify the conditions of a previously approved street closure. The site is an undeveloped parcel located at 877 South Lynnhaven Road, north of Old Town Lane, and directly west of the Parkway Plaza Shopping Center. So back in August of 1984, City Council approved a street closure for approximately 23,470 square feet of South Lynnhaven Road that encompasses a portion of this property. And there were conditions that required public utility and emergency access easements on the property. So currently, 60% of the site is encumbered with easements, and the applicant is seeking to remove those conditions, which would then allow them to vacate those easements and increase the buildable area on the site. So the applicant has indicated that they would like to develop the site into a small office use, but we don't have any actual plans to show that. So the site is zoned B2 community business, and it's surrounded by properties with similar zoning and uses. The ultimate development of the site would not be incompatible with the surrounding uses or the nearby residential neighborhood. And the proposal to vacate easements on the property has been reviewed by city staff, and no concerns were raised. These are just some photographs of the site. The staff received one letter of opposition from the adjacent property owner, citing concerns over development of the subject property and how it would affect their property. So according to the applicant, they have contacted the opposed party and have committed to working with them when they get to the site plan review process. But the applicant should be here to discuss that if you guys would like to. So based on the proximity to other commercial uses, future development of this site into an office or other community-scaled retail would be compatible with the surrounding area. So staff is recommending approval of this request subject to the conditions in the staff report, and I can stand by for questions.
Mr. Redmond.
I'm going to have to recuse myself on this one as well for the same reason. One of the owners of this property is a partner of mine in some other ventures. And I'm going to need another sheet from Ms. Wilson.
So I have a question. Can I ask a question real quick? I have no problem with the street closure and granting a street closure, but I think they will have to come back in front of us. I mean, I don't understand why we can't see what they're going to build there. We've never done that before. We always have something in front of us to see what it's going to be, what they're going to build. I don't feel comfortable just granting them a conditional use for a street closure and letting them. Are they going to build the office building or just for the street closure?
So this is a modification of the conditions of the street closure from 1984.
Okay.
And
But that condition's saying they can build an office building on it.
no, so the conditions were required that there be easements on the property.
Okay.
And so the applicant's requesting basically to null and void those conditions from the 84 street closure.
Okay.
Which would open up their parcel to be able to be developed. Because right now, only 40% of the whole site can be developed because 60% of it is encumbered with easements.
Okay. Jack?
I'm with the chairman. I think that, there's, I see that all this really is just, it's a street closure. They want to, void that and, have buildable area. But we've been pretty tough on this little stretch. Up the street, we recommended, denial just for someone who wanted to have a, a pre-owned vehicle sales. At least we did, on the, up the corner, Chief's Auto is right there. I think we identified that they had too many cars, they were trying to sell there a lot. But it seems a little awkward, and there was some opposition, even to the, I thought that it was one and the same owner, that the one right there adjacent that was, had that opposition, but, that's not the case. And he seemed to have had some issues, and seems like there's a gentleman's agreement that they're going to work together, for the best of this, best use of this property. But it seems a little awkward. We typically, with the rezoning or, conditional use permit, we'd see, what they were doing there.
Right. Yeah, there was no, I did request, plans or anything like that, but since there's no rezoning or something
There's nothing-
CUP associated with that, we can't actually tie them to a design on the site for this particular application.
I don't know. I'd feel comfortable hearing this, actually.
Mr. Costin?
I kind of understand what they're doing. They can't build anything on it above the 40% until they get rid of the easements. And I think that's all that their intent is at this point. Now, before they build something, we would get to see it likely, wouldn't we?
Once we grant that conditional use permit, they can build anything they want on it. Not anything they want, but they can build on it. But I just don't feel comfortable. We've never done that before. We've always seen some type of elevation just to see what it's going to be. I mean, it could stick out like a sore thumb and not be any kind of characteristic of what's around there. And yes, so I mean, I don't feel comfortable in granting this, that if we can't see what they're going to build. That's my opinion. Anybody else?
I'm right there with you.
Okay, so we're going to hear this. All right, we're going to hear this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, number 9.
And Internet is not here today, so I'm going to present a couple of items for her.
I'm sorry, say again?
Internet is not here, is the staff planner for items 9 and 10, but she's not present today, so I'm going to be.
Okay,
presenting for her.
okay.
Item number 9 is a conditional use permit request to operate a family daycare for up to 12 children within a single-family dwelling located in the Demnick Estate neighborhood. The applicant has 22 years of experience providing care for children. The designated outdoor play area is located in the back of the property and is enclosed by a 6 feet tall privacy fence. The property appears to be well-kept and organized. The daycare will operate on the weekdays between the hours of 6:30 to 5:30 p.m. and as conditioned, the pickup and drop-off times will be staggered to alleviate the potential for traffic congestion in the roadway. Family daycare home provide a needed and valuable service to community and would not be detrimental to the adjacent land use. Staff is recommending approval of this request, subject to the condition listed in the report. And there are no opposition to this request.
All right. Jack? Bruce Hall, isn't it? No, I'm sorry, no. This is Bruce Hall? Where are we at here? Princess Anne. No, it's Princess Anne. Is everybody good with this being on consent?
So they can, this is for 20,
For up to 12.
up to 12
Yeah.
children? Okay. All right, I'm good.
All right, everybody good for consent? Who would like to read this one? Somebody? Mr. Redmond? Thank you, sir. All right, number 10.
Number 10 is also a conditional use permit request for up to 12 children in a single-family dwelling located in the Magic Hollow neighborhood. The applicant has 12 years' experience providing caring for children. The designated outdoor play area is in the back of the property, which is also enclosed by a 6-feet privacy fence, and it appears to be well-kept and organized. The proposed hour operation on the weekdays between 6 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And as condition, the hours for pickup and drop-off will be staggered to prevent congestion in the right-of-way. Staff is recommending approval of this request, subject to the conditions listed in the report, and there are no opposition to this request.
Now, Jack. I knew we had a Rose Hall.
Yeah, I'm fine with consent for this one.
Okay. Who'd like to read this one for Jack? Whitney? Thank you, sir. Number 10. All right.
All right, the next 4 items are all being requested for deferral. Item 11, Pembroke Square Associate, is a conditional rezoning request from B3 Central Business District to Conditional Central Business Core. The request is to rezone 26.89 acres of the property in order to construct 158 units of senior housing. The request is for a 30 days deferral request in order to conduct additional public outreach.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Redmond.
not to beat a dead horse, but I've never seen a site plan for this thing. This comes back to us in 30 days. I mean, it's going to be a fairly significant application. We're going to get it on a Thursday, I guess, and look at it over the weekend or something. Can't we get, clearly you guys have a site plan and number of units and all this other stuff. If all they're doing is going for more public outreach and discussion, meeting with the Civic League, hosting meetings, whatever, something like that, would it be possible to get some info on some of these things sooner?
Yes, sir, we can get the site plan, the site layout and the,
At least I'd like to, I mean, I know this area extraordinarily well, so I'd at least kind of like to get to know it instead of, always just late in the week before.
yes, sir, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Good.
So item 11 was the rezoning. Item 12 is the conditional use permit for the senior housing in relation to item 11 is also being requested for 30 days deferral for the same reason.
Okay, keep on. Number 12
Item 13
or 13? Yeah, 13.
is both a street closure request, and then item 14 is for alternative compliance. They are the same applicant. They are also being requested for 30 days deferral in order to complete the parking and traffic studies.
All right. Sounds good. On to 15. Well, welcome, Summer. It's glad to see you. We're glad to see you in person from now this time.
Glad to see you as well,
Yes.
Commissioners. Good morning. I will be presenting all of the short-term rental agendas for today, as Will Miller is out this week. Item number 15, Todd E. SWEIGART, located at 507 19th Street in the Beach District. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at this single-family dwelling, zoned OR Oceanfront District. The applicant also owns both single-family homes on either side of the parcel, 505 and 509 19th Street. The site is located within the Vibe Creative District. According to city records, this 3-bedroom home was constructed in 1945. The applicant's parking plan depicts 3 off-street parking spaces, all in the existing concrete and gravel driveway located to the rear of the home. A vehicle access ingress-egress easement straddles the property line separating 505 and 507 19th Street. This access point is used as a travel path between the rear yards parking behind both homes. In this instance, the applicant owns both properties, 505 and 507 19th Street. As a result, he retains solitary control over the existing deeded access. The applicant can reasonably meet all of the requirements of Section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance for short-term rental use and is agreeable with the recent city council condition changes. No letters of opposition or support have been received. Are there any questions?
I've got one, Summer. Is the neighbor next door a short-term rental as well?
No, it is not. He owns both of those properties, and they are not requesting a short-term rental use, only this address.
Thank you.
Jack?
I just have an odd question. Who maintains the right-of-way It looks like there's landscaping that was installed, I guess, by the city. I'm just curious, is that a city, do you know if city maintains that, or is that property owners maintain that? I mean, that may be part of the
It's
corridor.
private.
Yeah.
It's private, so
Yeah.
they maintain that.
He would maintain it,
He would
correct?
Okay.
We're good? Consent? Everybody good with consent? All right,
Okay.
consent on 15, okay?
The next item, Sandra L. CAUTHEN at 1816 North Streamline Drive has requested to withdraw their request for a conditional use permit.
Okay.
Okay. Agenda item 17, the SPIVAK Family Trust at 229 16th Street in the Beach District. This 26,500 square foot mixed-use property is zoned OR Oceanfront Resort and contains 10 residential condominium units and 1 retail suite. The applicant is only requesting a short-term rental conditional use permit for 1 unit, 229 16th Street. According to city records, this 3-bedroom row home was constructed in 2010. To fulfill the off-street parking requirement, the applicant is proposing to utilize 2 permanently assigned outdoor parking space and 1 residential garage space. The off-site parking space will be located within a commercial parking lot at the corner of Virginia Beach Boulevard and Arctic Avenue, approximately 630 feet from the subject address. Accordingly, an informal intent to lease document from the off-site space was submitted to staff. All other requirements of Section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance regulating short-term rentals can be reasonably met by the applicant. The applicant also accepts the recent city council condition changes. Are there any questions?
Any questions? This is in the OR district, and I have talked to George about all the ones on the beach, and he has not heard any opposition, so he was good for consent. So this one's good for consent also? Everybody good? Yeah. 17, okay. Okay, 18?
18, Linda M. Lamb Living Trust at 4615 Ocean View Avenue in the Bayside District. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at this duplex dwelling, zoned R5R Shore Drive Overlay Residential District. The applicant only owns the subject unit, 4615 Ocean View Avenue. According to city records, this 4-bedroom home was constructed in 1977. Satellite imagery confirms that the parking area in front of the property has been utilized in its present form since at least 2003, so for 17 years. However, prior to 2003, it is likely that this parking area was used in the same manner as it was today. In addition, compacted gravel was a permitted residential parking material at the time of the duplex construction in 1977. The applicant's parking plan depicts 4 required off-street parking spaces within an existing compacted gravel driveway located in front of the property. The applicant can reasonably meet all requirements of Section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance. The applicant is agreeable with the recent city council condition changes. 8 letters of support and 4 letters of opposition have been received by staff related to this request. And at this time, I believe there is opposition signed up to speak as well.
Is it, okay, all right. So 18 we're gonna hear. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody, questions or anybody? Questions? No questions? Okay, we're good to go.
Item number 19 has requested a withdrawal. As noted on the PowerPoint, it was discovered that the subject address and unit is a grandfathered short-term rental.
Perfect.
Item number 20 is Heather SHIMP, located at 304 28th Street, Unit 307. It's located in a condominium, the Playarana condominium, with 42 units, zoned OR Oceanfront Resort. There are 2 on-site parking spaces that will be used to fulfill the parking requirement. City Council has previously approved 5 short-term rental conditional use permits on this property. The applicant can reasonably meet all requirements of Section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance, and the applicant is also agreeable to the recent City Council condition changes. Are there any questions?
Questions? OR district, we're good to go. Consent? Consent, no opposition?
Nope, no opposition.
Sounds good. Number 20 will be consent.
Finally, agenda item number 21, Suzanne OLESZKO at 312 Arctic Crescent in the Beach District. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at this single-family dwelling zoned R5S residential. According to city records, this 2-bedroom home was constructed in 1984. The subject property sits within a neighborhood block comprised of single-family dwellings and the Star of the Sea Church. Since the property is within the boundary of the residential parking permit program, parking passes issued for the subject dwelling will be limited to 2 resident passes for each unit. Guest and temporary passes will not be permitted while the conditional use permit is active. The applicant can reasonably meet all requirements of Section 241.2 of the zoning ordinance. And the applicant is also agreeable to the recent City Council condition changes, noting the recommended conditions do reflect City Council short-term rental revisions by reducing the number of bookings in a 7-day period to 1 and limiting the overnight guest calculation to 2 per bedroom. Staff has also received 2 letters of support, one from an adjacent property owner and one from a renter for her property at 4005 Atlantic Avenue, which previously was approved by City Council in December.
No opposition?
No opposition at this time is registered to
It's,
speak?
it's
Well-
very, go ahead, I'm sorry, Dee.
I know I've gotten 2 calls on this of opposition, and so I'm not, this one bothers me a lot. One, because it's on a dead-end street, it's on the water, it is actually in a neighborhood, and there aren't any in close proximity, and I'm not in support of this one at all. I have to tell y'all, I just, it is in a little tiny neighborhood of residential people, and I can't support this one.
Okay, we're gonna hear this one. I do have a question, though. Not question, just an observation. Looking at the surrounding land uses, north and where am I at here? West, like towards the water, is RT3. Resort is RT district, according to the surrounding land uses on here on the staff report. Is that correct?
Correct, it's, the
So is the
property-
house next to it a resort district?
The property that is zoned RT3 is the Star of the Sea Church's property, so
Which
that-
is north?
Oh, north.
Okay. Should be north, really, isn't it? Or east? No, because east is not. East is R5S, according to the staff report. I'm just curious. I just want to know where the line drawn between this. I mean, this particular lot right here seems to be cut off. A couple different places RT, a couple different places R5S. I'm just trying to figure out what the line is.
Correct. My apologies. The property that is to the right of it, all of that surrounding area is the Star of the Seas, so that is the resort tourist
Okay.
zoning. And then the remainder is going to be the R5S.
That goes to the left side of it.
Correct.
Okay.
My apologies.
Oh, no problem. I was just curious. I just wanted to figure out what the line was. That's all.
It's
Okay.
kind of where that border is, where it begins to then transition to the OR, so.
Right. Is the applicant planning to be here since we're going to hear?
Yes, the applicant will be here to answer any questions.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So we're going to hear this one. 21. All right.
Thank you.
That's it. Well, we like you being here because we flew right through these, and that's really nice for a change.
You'll get used to seeing me, I'm sure, so.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeHaan, anything else that we need to do?
No, sir, that's all we have. I don't, that's all we have, unless you have any other questions for me.
Anything for staff or any questions, concerns? Jack?
I just have one question about.
Turn your mic on. Turn your mic on.
We haven't gotten through, to the review yet, but it was just number 3, agenda item number 3. Is that a 30-day deferral?
Yes, 30 days.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, that's all.
All the deferrals today are 30 days. Oh, do you want to roll through these real quick? You want to go ahead and do that? Jack, you want to?
I'll do that. Okay, so for agenda item number 1, I have Kevin Kemp, on consent. The city staff is going to review that application. Agenda item number 2, we're going to hear agenda item number 3, deferred for 30 days. 4 is on consent, and Ms. Klein is going to read that one into the record. Agenda item number 5, we're going to hear. Agenda item number 6 is a 30-day deferral. 7 is consent. Ms. Oliver is going to read that into the record. Number 8, we're going to hear. Agenda item number 9 is on consent. Mr. Redmond is going to read that one. Number 10 is on consent. Mr. Graham is going to read that one into the record. 11 has requested a 30-day deferral. Agenda item number 12 is requested a 30-day deferral. 13 and 14, a 30-day deferral as well. And then on the short-term rental agenda, Agenda item number 15 is consent, 16 is requested withdrawal, 17 is on consent, 18 we're going to hear, 19 is requested withdrawal, 20 is on consent, and 21 we're going to hear.
All right, everybody good with that? Everybody good? Okay. All right, who would like to do the prayer? Somebody.
Okay.
Mr. Costin, there you go. Mr. Costin, do the prayer. Who'd like to introduce? Okay. All right, Mrs. Klein's going to introduce. All right, sounds good. We're good to go. We are done.
The pledge?
The pledge. Who's do the pledge? Whitney's going to do the pledge. All right, way to step up, Whitney. All right, we're good. We'll be back at noon for formal. We're adjourned.
Okay, thanks.